It has been years since Baldur's Gate 3 was announced, went into early access, and the full game's launch has been pushed back several times. But while there's been a lot of excitement for the title, in their latest release showcase, they have highlighted some pretty absurd elements the game features, including a scene that highlights how you can have relations with a druid in bear form. And game journalists are praising this stunning and brave addition. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. Now, of course, Kotaku has led this charge and this defense for Baldur's Gate 3 and the druid sex. They put up this article. I, of course, am using an archive because there's no way I'm going to give them my clicks. Baldur's Gate 3 has everything: polyamory, bear effing, and blood sacrifice. Now, they thought that this, release showcase event was going to get people very hyped for this title, and I mean, it has been years since it went into early access, and some people have purchased the game, so we have really been waiting for full release to finally roll around, and now that it is, people are trying to find ways to get hype for this game again if they, were underwhelmed initially. The developers are really trying to pump up the hype, and they thought that adding this scene in the showcase was going to get people excited. And the worst part is that the social justice warriors who praise, Wizards of the Coast and some of the, diversity, inclusion, the changes that they've made to the game by, removing terms and races that are seen as a little bit too offensive, were all over this. I mean, they were clapping during this scene. They were freaking out in an excited way, while a lot of the internet is really cringing at this. So, it says, if you've played Baldur's Gate 3 in early access, you've probably met Halsin, the druid companion who can transform into a bear that you can recruit as a party member. He's also a romance option, and that transformation comes into play when you're getting down and dirty with him. I truly never thought I would have to, on this channel, talk about developers adding a bear sex scene into a game, but here we are. It says, during the showcase, the team specifically highlighted romance, showcasing specific scenes, as well as talking about how these relationships will unfold over the course of very long RPG. There are multiple romance options, and each love story will take you down different paths, but those are broad strokes. The notable parts of the presentation were two scenes Larian showed off during the showcase. The stream took a hard left turn when it pivoted to the romance scene with Halsin. The exchange starts normal enough. The player approaches Halsin in a discreet area of the woods. As things start to get hot and heavy, he strips and things seem to be taking their natural course, and then he loses control of himself and transforms into his bear form. He quickly reverts to human forms and apologizes, and then the player is basically given an option where they can kill the scene. They don't have to go forward with it. Option where you basically romance him, but it's in his human form, or you can romance him and say, I like the beast. And then he turns back into a bear, which is what they show in the showcase. And then it pans off while the bear is getting on top of the player character. So they highlighted this gay bestiality scene, and I wish I was joking, but even I couldn't make this shit up. This journalist over at Kotaku is definitely interested in this, I would say, since they're saying, it's got everything, and this really isn't a bad idea. And of course, they're not the only journalist who has, put up some articles with some hot takes on this. Games Radar said Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't mind if you sleep with a druid while he's turned into a grizzly bear. In none of these articles do they explicitly say, wow, this is weird, this is creepy, this is bestiality. No, nobody is saying this. Baldur's Gate 3's commitment to D&D shenanigans includes carnal druid bear sex. And the worst part of this is that they're playing it off like it's okay. It's a big joke. It's just D&D shenanigans. But these are the types of people who will attack anything in video games regarding, like, women, right? Keep in mind, these are the people who complain about fictional women's breasts and say not all women, need to be sexy or need to have large chests, since it wouldn't be realistic. They call us pervs for wanting attractive characters in games. These are the people who complain about heterosexual relationships in games, yet they're eating this up. They are loving this, basically saying it is stunning and it's brave. But people on social media feel very differently about this because, of course, Kotaku put up their tweet saying Baldur's Gate 3 has everything, and the comment section is filled with people calling them out. Yagensha said this really demonstrates how broken everything is when attractive female characters get demonized as male gaze objects, but stuff like this is praised as positive and progressive. And the worst part is that this is what they decided to show in the showcase. It's not like a player naturally came across this. They thought that this was going to be good marketing material. This is what they think is going to get them customers. These people's logic are not on right because it wasn't even funny, even though they're all laughing like it was charming and it was witty. Now, none of this really comes as a surprise because Wizards of the Coast clearly heavily influenced the storytelling. A lot of the combat in the interface looked like Divinity Original Sin 2, but this story and the way they're highlighting the inclusivity the game offers screams Wizards of the Coast. I saw another article that mentioned how you can customize your character's genitals and pronouns. I mean, if anything in this world has screamed Wizards of the Coast, it would be these things. The founder and one of the leaders of Larian, Sven Vink, clearly bet this whole company on this game and let Wizards of the Coast walk all over him and this project, and I don't think that it's going to be successful. The worst part of this for me, and I know that some people have mentioned, is that 2 years ago, when it went into early access, none of this was being pushed, so people bought it thinking this was just going to be a good Baldur's Gate experience, and now that we've seen what they've really done to this game, you can't get refunds because it's been years. It's like they purposefully drew out the development time and kept it in early access because they didn't want people to know the full scope of the narrative that's in the game. And they did that by taking years to get it into full release. This, really does highlight the dangers of A, supporting a game in early access, and B, pre-ordering content and paying for it upfront. So unless you absolutely have to, don't pre-order games or participate in early access. I know that I say this all the time, but I personally do not pre-order games in my free time. I really only do because, of course, I am, playing them on the channel. I'm doing live streams of brand new games, but if I was not a content creator, I would not be doing it either. And like I mentioned, Sven even mentioned how they wanted to release this game a few years ago, and the scope of the game became so big that they couldn't get it done fast enough. But honestly, I feel like Wizards of the Coast came back to them and said it wasn't woke enough, so they went back to the drawing board and altered cinematics and storytelling to satisfy the appetite of WotC with this type of content, and that tacked on literally another 2 years of dev time. Half orcs and half elves are still in the game, and for those of you who have been following WotC news knows that's surprising since they've essentially removed the idea of half species from tabletop Dungeons and Dragons, but there are a lot of shenanigans going on with this game and they're getting destroyed for it, and I completely agree. I mean, people are doing the meme where it's literally a character just staring at a paper, because who thought that this was going to be a good marketing tactic? Western fantasy is dying at such an amazing rate. Wait, was that real? How do I refund my early access? Because holy fucking shit. Unfortunately, you can't, because it has been years at this point since it went into early access. Maybe they will, open up the refunds, but I highly doubt it, right? A lot of people feel like they have been freaking scammed by these developers who have done a complete 180 with the content in this game. It sucks to see this happen. Yep, the stunning and brave knobs, but if you put your glasses on, it's just degeneracy and mental illness. They are praising this as like stunning and brave and unique and cool. But if it was, a female in a video game, we would be attacked for it. I mean, here's the perfect meme. Very attractive lady, F off, just go watch porn. But if it's a bare gay sex scene, that's what they want to see. I mean, these memes just write themselves, and I don't think that Larian is going to live this down anytime soon. There are some, social justice warriors who love Wizards of the Coast and the new diverse Dungeons and Dragons that they've been pushing, who have praised this decision. I just think that it is honestly cringy. I hate using that word, but it's the best one to describe this situation. It is cringy, and it is just so weird that they would promote like this bestiality angle, and then journalists would eat it up like it is stunning and brave and unique, and it is going to make this game a good one. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.